Well, here we are, man. I pulled you in, and we're giving it a shot. This is episode 1 of either Country Strong or who knows. Maybe we'll call it like Moon Man and the Barbarian. I don't know. Like
I'm game for that.
we got some fun stuff, but really, we're gonna take some time today to tell you, if you haven't watched me on the other podcast or don't know Brad personally, who we are, what we're about, kind of how we met and landed here. It's a fun story. It's probably almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a long time
that I first met Brad. So anyway, what's your name and where do you currently reside?
My name is Brad Shepard, and my family and I, we reside in Shingletown, California, up in Northern California. It's a little pocket of heaven in this chaos of what California is.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And then you grew up SoCal, right?
Yep. Yeah, I grew up SoCal. Moved to the high desert when I was about 10 and loved it. Dirt bike road, lived out kind of like country life, you know, dirt bike road out of my yard, snowboarded in a local mountain and grew up. It was nice growing up. We didn't have the chaos of the city where we grew up, which is
that's unique.
A lot of people think SoCal's like concrete jungle everywhere, but we had a nice little spot there.
Yeah.
And then came up here for school, and we're like, let's not go back down there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So, I remember you first came into the gym. You were just looking to get good workouts. You're interested in pushing yourself. And I don't remember, was Amy in the picture then too? It was both of you, right?
Yeah.
But I think you came in first by yourself to talk to us.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Like, I'm kind of the more dreamer, schemer of the two of us.
All right.
So I'm like, you know, hey, let's do this thing. And she's like, and so eventually, you know, I pulled her in and we were both in there getting our butts kicked.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I'll go right into about Brad that I love, number one, now we've worked together since then, you remember for years, then Learning Center, some other things, we realized, man, we've got a lot in common, love for God, love for family, love for a sensible country that we can survive in.
Yes.
Right. And so then moving forward, like getting to know you better and better, I always appreciated Brad's a guy that's very objective, will like tell you, I don't know the answer to that, or, oh, we should look into that, or I just don't believe that or agree with you, agree with that. So I've always appreciated that authenticity. So when the other day Brad stopped by, he's like, I was talking about different stuff we want to do at the Learning Center. And he's like, well, maybe you could do like a video series. And then we left that and I go, he's my guy. He's going to keep my brain somewhat to the ground, maybe.
Here we are in this awesome little recording studio that I didn't even know existed.
Right. Yeah. There's all kinds of stuff.
Well, I'm thankful for this, man. I'm stoked to whatever this turns into. I'm stoked to be a part of it.
Yeah. Well, I'm stoked to have you. As far as your background, what did you study? Did you have any sports biases that you studied in high school, moving into college, any of that kind of story?
I love science, obviously.
Yeah.
If you know me, I'm a nerd. I'm a big old nerd. And, but yeah, in school, loved science. Had a great science teacher in middle school who I think really changed probably the course of my life, really. He was wild. He would be in the quad at our school just screaming. And I was like, as a kid, I was like, I do not want that guy as a teacher. He is crazy.
Super intense.
Just super intense, just this wild, crazy old man. And the next year I ended up having him as a teacher. And I loved it. He would be throwing stuff in class. He got electrocuted one time. Like, it was just chaos. But he was so good at teaching. And just building passion into us and pushing us hard. And I think that really ignited the passion for science for me. And then in high school, did really well in science, did really well in math. And so then I was like, I'll just go to school for an engineer, like make decent money. I can use those skills that I have and the passions that I have in that. So it all made sense in my mind. But the Lord had other plans. And
I love it. He's always got other plans.
Yeah, he messed up everything. I was like, man, I could help build anything, design anything. And I'm like, in 100 years, what's that worth? And
Interesting.
It was
yeah.
like nothing. And so I did some soul searching. It was an ugly time for a time. I read Ecclesiastes and I was like, yes, everything's meaningless. And I really had to seek out him and like, why am I here? You know, like what's my purpose here? And eventually got an answer that you're here to build the next generations.
Beautiful thing.
I'm like, cool, what's that even mean?
yeah.
You know, I
yeah.
have no idea what that means.
That sounds weighty.
Yeah.
Where do I go with that?
What do I do
Yeah.
with that?
Yeah.
And so I just started. I'm like, okay, well, let's do psychology. Let's learn about people and how people work. And so with my beliefs, I was like, I don't want to go to one of those crazy liberal schools that teaches psychology and some weird stuff I don't believe in. And so I came up to Simpson up here in Reading. That's what got me here. And got me started at Simpson. And the Lord switched that again to youth ministry. Long story short, I just heard from him, I want you to be a pastor.
Wow.
And I was laying in bed in my dorm and I said, hell no.
Oh, that's not a good answer.
No. It was an honest answer at the time.
Yeah, that's what he wants.
I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And so literally I had like these ideas in my mind of like what that would look like if I were to be a pastor, youth pastor in particular. And a smile came on my face and I was still saying no, but I knew I lost that conversation.
Yeah.
And so I switched my major to youth ministry. And I loved it, man. Youth ministry was an amazing degree.
Yeah.
I learned a ton. So I have a psychology minor, youth ministry, pastoral major, and then I also have a Bible and Theo minor.
Nice.
As well. And then
nice.
At the time, there was no positions open, and I was like, I can't wait. You know, I have to figure out jobs, situations, and stuff like that. And so in the meantime, I got my teaching credential, knowing I could still pastor the next generations in a public school.
Yeah, absolutely.
It may not look like a typical pastoral position, but, you know, I can still teach. I can still empower students and love on them with science. Everything kind of came full circle.
Yeah, interesting.
And so I became a science teacher to junior hires. Stinky, wild, hormonal junior hires, and I've loved it ever since.
That's awesome.
And that's how I ended up with you guys at the Learning Center.
Right.
Being able to help out with science at the Learning Center.
Yeah, so you must have come into the gym then. You were still at Simpson then, that timing?
Yep.
So you were sorting through all that. Very fascinating. So in that timing, I was full-fledged fire department gym owner. Like that was my 2 lanes.
Yep. Yeah, you were just gym.
Yeah.
All this extra amazing journey that you guys have been on hadn't happened yet.
Yeah, and same thing, God rocked all of that for me. And I think there's a basis there where we're like, okay, we got to listen to him first. You know, I've taken some lumps in getting there. My answers were no, too. I can share similar stories, but that's cool. I never really actually knew your degrees. You know, for me, it was easy. I knew you. We ran into each other at church where I think you were youth pastor for a while there, right?
Yeah.
And I just ran into you at the main gathering, and then trust just built over knowing each other's hearts, I think, you know.
Yeah.
And then it was like, hey, we need you. And then Karina just loves geeking out like you and I do. Yeah. And she's like, Brad's got to come and help us. And I'm like, yes, he does. How in the heck are we going to fit all this, you know?
Yeah.
So then you landed at the Learning Center.
Which is wild. I'd love to hear that story. Like how, you know, going from firemen to CrossFit gym owners to now it's like so much more than that. Now you've got your school, you've got, you know, even the gym has changed into more of a holistic life approach to things.
Yeah.
So like, how have you guys, you know, what's been, obviously it's the Lord's calling in that, but like, how has that journey gotten you from I guess where we met to where you guys are now? Like, what's that been like?
Oh man. So I can say it's been the wildest, but also the best ride, you know? I still, on my days, like yesterday, there's 47 kids. Like, no. Like when you met me, I was fresh, you know, like collateral duties. I'm running around in the forest as a comm tech. Right before that, I was on SWAT team as a medic from the fire department side. Like I was so deep in that world that it's still kind of shocking to say, okay, 10 years later, it looks so different. But I think the core thing is a surrendering to him So then that journey is just, okay, if I'm surrendering it, I'm looking for the constant truth. How do I get people results? How do I serve my gym members best? How do I serve my fire department best? And just the constant searching of that just created a lot of growth and change. You can't really stay put if you're truly searching that. So Karina and I would just always be meeting and trying to reevaluate and create more value. And, we kind of naively like go into stuff when we're young, even old. And I think if you knew everything, it's like if you knew what the first 3 months of a difficult baby was really like, then you may not have the baby. So we do constantly do things naive to what the real work it'll take or change it'll bring.
Sure.
So I think saying yes to a gym and then all the downstream things, I had no idea, right? All I knew is that I really loved CrossFit as a sport. Mm-hmm. I loved seeing the change within myself. I wanted to share that with the world. Yeah. And Karina, I really saw a true genius in her ability to train. And we had a business, a mind and heart for creating our own, income and serving the community. So that was the onset of the gym. But then it obviously, how it shifted is so many stories and so many encounters with him to get it to where it's like you couldn't have designed, right? When people walk through the building, like, what? They're just like, what the heck,
Yeah, and I love just the venue itself, just the building itself. I'm like, man, there was so much put into this to make it beautiful. It's aesthetically beautiful. It's functional. You have so many different, avenues of people coming in and doing different things in there, which is cool. I have 2 questions though. Did you guys ever own a business prior to owning the gym?
Small, like little tries at like, I had a window washing company. That was a flop, and like I had, Karina did her own real estate. She was a real estate agent for a while.
Oh, okay.
But I started in fire department I started as a minor in the Explorer program. So then 3 days after high school graduation, I'm hot on the trail to get hired for a seasonal. And I was. Everyone was going on their senior trip. And I was in the 99 fire season, which was a big fire season for that time frame. So we didn't really own a business where we had employees or, an entity, a corporation or any of that stuff. So it's been a steep learning curve in all those realms.
Sure.
So no business background. No.
That's
we
cool.
had Karina's parents owned their own business for years. My parents did for a while. So we kind of watched our parents do it, but weren't really intertwined in the operational side very much.
Cool. I love that. Just the ambitiousness to go forward something new.
Yeah.
Second question.
Okay.
Obviously, I've helped at the Learning Center.
Yeah.
But like, when did you know that was the next step? Like from gym to bringing in 40 plus kids to have this crazy experience, to really pour into the next generation. Like what I was talking about, like how did you guys know that was a step you needed to take?
Well, it's funny because, kind of how we landed there was, he was gentle but abrupt in his steps. God was, because we said, okay, we've got to teach nutrition for the gym, right? And we were on that kick, trying to implement that, really get members accountability, get them formulas for diets, all this different stuff. And in that timing, I was building out a gym space, like remodeling, refreshing, whatever. And Karina comes in and she's kind of got this look on her face, like, this stare. And she goes, God said for us to build a kitchen in here. And I had already at that point been kind of beat up on other stuff when she says God said something to her. And I'm like, nah, I don't think that doesn't align.
You're hearing it wrong.
Yeah. You're hearing that wrong. It doesn't align with what I want to do today. So you can just go ahead.
I had my own plans.
Go away with that. So at that point, I'd been beat up by that mindset. And I'm like, okay, don't be the dunce, right, that never learns. I don't want to be flicked out into the desert for 40 years. Yeah. So I'm like, okay. So I look at her and I say, okay. And she was shocked that I just took it so well. So then we're like, we didn't know when, how, where, anything, just a kitchen in the building. So I started doing some digging around, and sure enough, it was already zoned. It was already a restaurant. There was already a kitchen in the building. Wow. And where I was standing is where it was located when she told me.
Oh, man.
So then it was like, oh, boy, there's another sign. There's the trail, right? So we build out the kitchen. We're building out that front space. And in that same season, COVID hits. And we were already kind of getting wise to I don't want to say everything in the public school system's bad. That's a completely false statement. But we were wise to it not probably being the most effective way to have my kids spend their time and their days.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the most efficient, effective. If I'm being honest about loving and stewarding God's children to become functional, good adults and servants of Him, that route wasn't the best. And we already knew that. So then we have this kitchen build, front amenity build going on. And then while that build's going on, we have this space. And then we're like, okay, let's run a pilot program and get some kids in here. We had actually one of our first employees to run the learning center come along. She's like, I just want to work for you guys. This sounds crazy. I don't know what you'd have me do. And blah, blah. I'm like, Leslie, what did you do before here? Well, I was a cook for schools.
Oh my gosh.
I'm third generation cook.
No way.
So we have the kitchen. I have a third generation cook approach me, and I have kids that need a place, safe place to land. And all these parents going like, what's up? But this school has this oddity going on. This is going on. I'm questioning these shots and their, toxicity and all these questions. So we're like, well, let's just try something.
Yeah.
So we ran a pilot over the summer, and then it was like more and more word, more and more people. And then we said, okay, we're doing it because COVID really smacked everybody. And we didn't know if the shot was coming that year. There was a bunch of parents going, I'm not parking my kid in a seat for 6 hours with a mask on.
Sure.
With a teacher with a mask on. Like, what am I priming their mind for? So there was just everything went on blast and got disrupted. And we're like, okay, we can offer this solution. So then that was that year. And we said, okay. And we had no employees, and we were 13 days out from opening. We had Leslie, which didn't really.
So you had food.
So we had the food thing covered, right? Which made sense because part of the heart of the mission was practical skills.
Yeah.
And the lesson within food. You've got heat generation for science, right? Then you've got all the chemical reactions that happening, how the moisture content changes stuff. So food alone is like this massive lesson. So we're like, why are we compartmentalizing it? And you learn heat over here, humidity over here and this and that, like just go, okay, here it is, kids, and here's how it affects something.
Right.
So we do this separation to bring it back together. So Karina and I had some clarity on all that, but how to deliver it, monetize it, insure it, everything else was like, oh boy, we are out. Lord help us. Literally, that was it. So
super steep learning curve.
Yeah, super steep. And then we had Meredith came along, and then Karina's sister, and said, we just left our jobs. We want to be with you for this mission.
Wow.
And that was, I think, around 2 weeks before we opened. So Karina was in tears like the days before they came in because she's like, I have no one else. I have myself. I'm not a trained teacher. I don't know what I'm doing. I just know I have a heart for these efficiencies. I know Leslie's got our back. We've got some community family members that got our back. Okay, go.
Yeah.
And I was still building out walls. And it was a wild ride. So in that moment, actually, the story I shared with the kids, I'm in there building out one portion of the building, actually demoing, and it's like 15-foot ceilings. And at the top of this one wall, you may have heard me tell this story, but so I'm demoing studs that go up like 14 feet, right? And there's this 2-story section. And the tenants, I watched them, or didn't watch them day to day, but I was in the building, just not that suite when they built this thing out. And I knew the guys, and they weren't necessarily outwardly believers or anything else. So I'm demoing their old space, right? And I get up to the top of this wall, and I'm questioning it, right? Because I'm demoing all this, changing the building we just recently purchased, and I have not necessarily a student committed. We didn't have year-long contracts. I didn't have a loan to back me. I didn't have an investor. I had nothing, but I'm willing to do the work, Lord. I'm willing to pray enough. I think we got it. I think I got it through you. And I'm demoing, right? And I look at the top plate. So this is 14 feet off the ground, the top plate of this wall. I pull the drywall off. And there's a book. I can see the edge of it. So I pull the book off. And I look at it, and it says shelter in the storm.
Oh, no way.
So Karina's going through this thing, like literally in front of the building. I have that experience, and I'm like recharged. There is no way I am stopping. I'm in the storm. He's got me. I'm sheltered. Move. So that book,
Gives me chills.
that book sits on my desk right now. you know, so
wild.
that was why, you know, it was like, okay, learning center, here it goes. And that's really just a title for our gym program, right? Because it's still multiple workouts a day. We aren't providing the curriculum. You know how we run.
Yeah.
We do these fun lessons. We hopefully get more Moon Man in. That's Brad's nickname. That's another story. But
Sorry for the future.
yeah, maybe. I think we got time. So yeah, I don't know if that kind of gives you a clearer picture.
Yeah.
But even the layout for the building, we got a direct sign from God. I wrote it out on the top of a to-go box, and I'll leave that story. We'll do that another time. But it's really been, I feel almost sometimes, depending on who's listening, it's like that's so much testimony. It feels like maybe you're creating the story. I'm like, I promise you, I'm not that creative.
Well, and it's like that, you know, it's like the step by faith, right? It's like, you know, the next step, but you don't know where this is going, what it's going to look like at the end. Like, you're literally just like stepping in faith of what the Lord's kind of given you as a direction, and your passions of, hey, I want my kids to be in a safe place, but one that's not going to be full of the chaos of our culture, that's not going to be forced to do things that we don't agree with as a family. And obviously you're not alone in that, because he's also brought a lot of families that have the same mentality. And been able to bless the energies that you've put in there.
Yeah.
And you can tell by where you guys are now and what you're doing and the shaking and baking that is happening.
Yeah. And it's been, you know, well, I appreciate that, because I do think, you know, why is the stuff we're even going to sit here and talk about relevant? Well, because it's interesting to us, and we're the meat of the middle class American guy that loves God and wants to do good for his family, and you know, is going to be authentic with what that picture looks like, even if it's my ego that takes the hit, you know. So I appreciate sharing that. And yeah, this year when you start with 90 kids from something that literally we were just building it out and had no staff, no real concept of a day. And it's like, well, then how come you can create the value? We just created the place and then figured out the value points, the day to day and all that. And it's like, someone's got a gift. You know, it's like, can you help us? Come over here, please. You know?
Yeah. Well, and being there, you know, you just see all the people that the Lord has assembled. You know, the hearts and the passions and the selflessness. And I love the freedom that the Learning Center has to, you know, hey, I have this idea and all right, let's run with it. Or, you know, I really feel like the students need this right now because of this is going on in either in our culture, in our society, whatever. And we can pivot and just, you guys can deliver something that you feel is going to be the best for them at the time.
Yeah.
And being in public school, like there's so much going on overall, you know, like when I was teaching in public school at like in person, I was counselor in the hallways, or I was a disciplinarian in the hallways. I was counselor here. I was, you know, still trying to fit in science. Like it felt like there was so much to do because it's just a lot of, you know, broken families, and you got some kids that are just kind of being yahoos. You've got, I don't know, just a lot of dysfunction. I think public schools, I can't speak for all of them. I know I went to an amazing public school.
Right.
That had a culture that was empowering, that made you feel a part of it, that you were proud of it. And so I know there's schools that do it amazing, but I ended up, you know, saying goodbye during COVID to being in public school because I felt coerced to get vaccinated. Yeah. I felt that I was overstressed with all the demands, that I was so much more than just teaching science. I was required to do this, and every other week it was, okay, now you have a new thing that you need to do and submit. And it just felt like there was so much more that I couldn't even really be as present with the students. I couldn't really even feel like I was fulfilling my heart and my role because there was just so much extra. Yeah. There was so much, I don't know, just so much going on. Anyways.
No, I think that's, well, it has flavors of it similar to fire department bureaucracy, right? When the system and the institution overrides the service provided, right? That's, I think, what starts. And then it obviously came into your personal life. Like, wait, now you're telling me what to do medically?
Yeah.
Now your system's way off. Like,
Oh, man.
so backwards to interrupt an individual's medical freedom and that whole pandemic thing and all the stuff that went. Well, I mean, that's why this room, is motivation for this podcast room to even exist, But yeah, that's really hard when there's the institution or the bureaucracy is driving. I'm trying to serve a kid in front of me. I can't even imagine that burden because I'd go outlaw immediately and probably get fired because I'm like, no, that has nothing to do with this child I'm trying to help and serve. And this is what you're actually paying me for.
Yeah.
Not check these other boxes,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be rough. And that was probably 19 or 20 that you walked from that exact format.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it was, 1920. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was COVID, man. It was wild to me just to finish that topic.
Yeah.
COVID, man, what a wild ride that has been overall, but just in public school. I remember just a quick story. I told my coworkers because I was like, I had a trip planned to Ireland. This was before I had kids, when I was more free. We were going to do a trip to Ireland, and then it got canceled because of, COVID was traveling the world and everything was getting shut down. And I told my coworkers, I was like I'm a nerd. I'm like reading it every single morning. I'd get up and I would just see what's going on news-wise, world-wise, and so I was just in it and told my coworkers, I was like, guys, we're gonna shut down. And they're like, there's no way.
You told the school, coworkers at public school.
I told my coworkers at public school, I was like, we're gonna shut down. We're not gonna be in school. Like, have you seen what's happened in Italy? Did you see this and that? Like,
yeah.
And they're like, oh, no way. You really think so? And I'm like, oh, I 100% don't think we're going to be here in a couple weeks. And sure enough, we were out. We were doing school online.
Yeah.
And that was just crazy. And then the next year, we tried to go back, but all the students were locked in a room all day long. And it was the teachers who rotated. So I would start in my classroom, and then I'd rotate to other teachers' classrooms, and they would rotate into mine. And I had to feel like prison for the kids.
Yeah.
They were walked in line to go to lunch. They had to sit at the same table with the same students. They couldn't interact with their classes. Walked back to their classroom, and they were back in there all day. It was like, wow, we'd go out for little breaks here and there. And but we struggled through, we made it work, and we stayed open all year long.
Yeah.
We had, kids in classes that had to go out for quarantine and this and that, but we made it work.
Yes.
The next year, there's a vaccine now, right? And now, instead of, last year, I would call that a success, even though it was probably not great, feeling like prison. But then we have this mandate. If you're unvaccinated, you have to get swabbed once a week. And I'm like, we didn't do that last year.
That thing jams up your nose, right?
Yeah, it goes up your nose, swab. You have to go. If you're unvaccinated, the vaccinated people who can still carry this thing, right? They can still carry it and transmit it, but
we'll leave that there for right now.
Yeah.
We'll just continue with your story,
but
because there's so much in all this. But yes, go.
Yeah, those of us that are unvaccinated that are saying no, like we have to go get tested every single week. I'm like, why didn't we do that last year? Why wasn't that a requirement last year when we were doing the same exact thing we are this year? Like, come on. And so I told my superintendent, I said, that sounds like a lot of coercion to me.
Right.
For all of us that are unvaccinated, we have to do this extra stuff.
Yeah.
When scientifically, all the stuff that I'm seeing, that doesn't make any sense.
Makes zero sense.
And he said, well, that's your job. And I said, well, it might not be soon.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right. So, and then the wildest thing, the thing he said when I left, he said, really makes me sad to see you do this. And it's going to probably be really hard for you to get a job after this.
Wow.
as a threat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, you know, people are going to know, like, maybe I'll tell them, almost kind of a thing. And I was like, all right, cool. He didn't know this. I already had a job, but it's wild, man.
Yeah. It's going to be real hard. I already got one, buddy.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, and I think it's funny how much now, if you truly want to hear somebody's story, they've got to tell you how they worked through COVID. It's still a conversation piece that we like survived it. Like you said, like, well, that was a win, but I'm not really going to unpack the ins and outs of it because I just have the next thing, the shot the next year. And then it was people shifted and changed life so much to adapt to whatever it was or got sick or had lost loved ones or whatever. And then now it's like survival. Okay, then we're rolling into the next election cycle. Yeah. All this global disruption and distraction. It's really valid to go back and go, what did I go through? How did we navigate that? What things am I still carrying? Because a lot of people don't take that time. Yeah. A lot of people don't take that time, though, I'm telling you. And then it starts coming out, you know, and it's rather than a gripe session or a finger point, like my impact. Yeah. And how am I moving forward now? What's left over, you know?
Well, and I'm bad at reflecting. It's just something I know about myself. But yeah, I recently heard from a neurologist. She had all the ologists. Yeah. She was a brain expert, and she was just talking about how, you know, COVID has it long-lasting impacts of COVID are very present, you know, even still in our kids, in adults. And so, yeah, it's real. So, I mean, I appreciate discussing it. I don't know how I had left the fire department that in 19, like end of December was my last shift. Okay. Dang, I didn't realize it was that late.
Yeah, in 19. So then I was like, when all the mandates and everything, I was already not with the fire department. But I can't imagine. Like, I would have been tiger by the tail 100% with all that because it was just easy to track what made sense for those that can stay objective and not just bend. And I hate the beta test that it was. We've talked about that at length over this table, you know, but it's like how much stuff shifted. And then now you watch, you know, and we were just talking about earlier, state of emergency for bird flu. And I'm like, oh, everyone's going, oh, not again. And don't even want to look at it. Yeah. And then, you're going to force me to make all these choices again when you shut down. And now I have to evaluate if the next engineered virus is actually that bad or not. So so preparing your heart well and your family, it's important to go backwards to go forward, you know?
Well, there's some anxiety in that too, you know, like as a father, as a human on this planet, like technology is getting more advanced. And if they could do that with a virus and impact the whole globe, you know, things are getting more complex. If that's a trial run, it just, I don't know, gives you a little anxiety of what could happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just think about my kids and like the future.
Right. Well, I think we'll wrap it, dude. I think that was really good. You know, I just want to take this time to get people to know us. And I'm not even sure where we'll share this. Where do you think we should? Should we do a whole like channel? Or should I just put it on the Country Strong YouTube? What should we do, Brad?
I don't know, man. I'm the invitee here.
Yeah. I know.
I don't know. I think I'm open to whatever. I think this could evolve and change, and whether we post it somewhere, do something with it now, it could change in the future or whatever.
Okay. Very cool. Thank you. And I think we'll do a few more, and we'll get them out there and see what people have to say.
Let's do it.
All right.